I watched my mother's face drain of all color as the sheriff handed her the eviction notice. My father stood frozen in the doorway of what used to be their dream home, the house they'd sacrificed everything for, including me, the same house they'd kicked me out of 3 years ago to make room for my sister Emma's unemployed boyfriend. You have 30 days to vacate the premises, the sheriff said, his voice professionally neutral. Failure to comply will result in forcible removal. This can't be legal, my mother stammered, her hands trembling as she clutched the papers. We've been paying the mortgage. There must be some mistake. No mistake, ma'am. The property was sold to a new owner who has chosen to exercise their right to foreclose. All the documentation is in order. I stood on the sidewalk, just visible from their front porch, my designer heels clicking against the concrete as I adjusted my sunglasses. I wanted them to see me. I wanted them to know. My father's eyes found mine, and I watched recognition dawn slowly across his features. Lily? His voice cracked. What are you Hello, Dad. I smiled, and it felt like ice forming over a deep, dark ocean. I believe we have some things to discuss about the property you're currently occupying, my property. 3 years ago, I died on a park bench 2 miles from this house, homeless and alone at 23 years old. Pneumonia, the coroner would later report, complicated by malnutrition and exposure. I'd been living in my car until it was repossessed, then on the streets because my parents had thrown me out to make room for Emma's boyfriend, Derek. But death wasn't the end. I opened my eyes on my 18th birthday, 5 years in the past, in my childhood bedroom with its faded purple walls and the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a rabbit. I was alive again, whole again, with every memory of what they would do to me burning in my mind like a brand. This time, things would be different. This time, I would be the one holding all the cards. And I would make them understand exactly what they'd taken from me. Let me take you back to how it all began, both times. In my first life, I was the perfect daughter. Straight A's, full scholarship to state university, 2 part-time jobs to help with family expenses even though I lived on campus. I was studying finance and business management, dreaming of a stable career, maybe eventually helping my parents retire comfortably. They'd always struggled with money, always lived paycheck to paycheck, and I wanted to change that for them. Emma was different. 3 years younger than me, she dropped out of community college after 1 semester, claiming it wasn't for her. She bounced from retail job to retail job, never keeping any position for more than a few months. But she was the baby, the beautiful one with my mother's bright blue eyes and easy charm. Where I was quiet and studious, Emma was vivacious and impulsive. And my parents adored her. When I was 20, halfway through my junior year, Emma brought Derek home. He was 25, worked sporadically in construction, and had a smile that could charm anyone except me. I saw through him immediately, saw the way he assessed our modest home like he was calculating its worth, saw how he let Emma pay for everything, saw the subtle control he exerted over her choices. I tried to warn my parents. Once. He's using her, I told my mother over winter break. He's never around when the bills are due, but he's always there when she gets paid. My mother's expression had hardened. Not everyone can be perfect like you, Lily. Emma's in love. When you find someone, maybe you'll understand. But I never had time to find someone. I was too busy working, studying, trying to build a future. The summer after my graduation, I came home with my degree and a job offer from a small investment firm in the city. The salary wasn't huge, but it was a start, $45,000 a year with room for growth. I was so proud. I'd already calculated that after my student loans and modest rent, I could send my parents $500 a month to help them out. I remember walking through the front door, diploma in hand, ready to share my good news. Instead, I found Emma crying at the kitchen table, my mother's arm around her shoulders and my father pacing with his phone pressed to his ear. The landlord gave them 30 days, my mother was saying. Derek's apartment. They're raising the rent by $400 and he can't afford it. Emma wants to move in with him, but they have nowhere to go. I should have known then. Should have seen the trap closing around me. We have the guest room, Emma said, looking up at me with those big, pleading eyes. Derek could stay there, just temporarily, until we figure something out. You're moving to the city anyway, right, Lily? You won't even be here. The guest room. My childhood bedroom. The place I'd planned to come home to on weekends, to do laundry and eat home-cooked meals and remember I still had a family. I got the job, I said weakly, still holding my diploma. I start in August. That's wonderful, honey, my father said. But he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Emma, at her tears, at the crisis that needed solving. So you'll be getting an apartment in the city? I Yes, but I thought I could still come home sometimes, keep my room for. Emma needs us right now, my mother interrupted. Surely you understand. You're independent, you've always been independent. But your sister needs help. Derek needs help. I wanted to scream that I needed help too, that my student loans were crushing me, that $45,000 in the city meant choosing between rent and food some months, that I'd counted on coming home to save money, to build up a cushion, to finally breathe after 4 years of relentless grinding. But I didn't scream. I nodded. I agreed. Because I was the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who didn't make waves. Derek moved in a week later. I moved to the city, into a basement studio apartment that flooded when it rained, eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches while Derek lounged in my childhood room playing video games on a console Emma had bought him. I came home for Christmas that year. Derek answered the door. "Oh, hey, Lily," he said, blocking the doorway. "Didn't know you were coming." "I live here," I said, then corrected myself. "I grew up here. This is my parents' house." "Yeah, well, we're kind of having a thing." He gestured vaguely behind him. "Emma's friends are over. It's tight quarters already." I stood in the cold, my overnight bag heavy in my hand, and called my mother. "Oh, honey, Derek's right. We're so cramped right now," she said, and I could hear the party noise in the background, could hear my sister's laughter. "Why don't you come by tomorrow for lunch instead? We'll catch up then." I spent Christmas Eve in a 24-hour diner, drinking burnt coffee and watching other people's families celebrate through the windows. The pattern continued. Every time I tried to come home, there was a reason I couldn't. Derek had friends over. Emma was sick and needed quiet. They were renovating my old room. Always something. The final blow came on a Sunday morning in March. I'd been at my job for 8 months, barely scraping by, when I got the call. "Lily, we need to talk about something," my father said, his voice tight. "Can you come by the house?" I took the train out, using money I'd saved for groceries. The moment I walked in, I knew something was catastrophically wrong. My parents sat on the couch, not looking at me. Emma perched on the armrest, Derek's hand on her knee. All my instincts screamed danger. "We've made a decision," my mother began. "Derek and Emma are getting married." "Okay," I said slowly. "Congratulations?" "They want to start their life together properly," my father continued. "And this house, well, it's not big enough for all of us." I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. "What are you saying?" "You have your own place," Emma said. And there was something hard in her voice, something I'd never heard before. "You have your job, your life in the city, but Derek and I, we're trying to build something here. We need space." "You're saying," I couldn't form the words. "We need you to stop coming home so much," my mother said. "It's too disruptive. And frankly, honey, you're 23 years old. It's time to cut the cord." "Cut the cord?" I stared at them. "I came home 3 times in 8 months. I haven't even had my own room since Derek moved in." "That's another thing," my father said. "We've been thinking about refinancing the mortgage. There's an opportunity to lower our monthly payment, but the lender needs to see that we have extra income. Derek's been picking up more construction jobs, and if he officially moves in, pays rent—" "He doesn't pay rent now?" I asked, incredulous. "That's not the point," Emma snapped. "The point is that we're a family here, we're building something, and you're always on the outside looking in, judging us, making everyone uncomfortable." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity. I was on the outside looking in? I, who had been exiled from my own childhood home? "I've been sending you money," I said to my parents. "Every month, $500. I've been skipping meals so I could help you." My mother had the grace to look ashamed, but my father just shrugged. and we appreciate that. But we need to think about Emma's future now. You've got your degree, your job, you're set. Emma needs us more. That's when I understood. I'd always understood, really, but I'd never let myself see it clearly. They loved Emma more. Not just loved her more, but loved her in a way they'd never loved me. I was the tool, the reliable one, the one who existed to make their lives easier. Emma was the treasure, the one worth sacrificing for. So, what are you asking me to do? My voice sounded hollow. Just tell us, give us some space, my mother said. Don't come by without calling first. Don't drop in. Let us know if you need something from your old room and we can mail it to you. It's time for you to be fully independent. They were kicking me out, politely, gently, but they were kicking me out. I left that day and I kept sending them money because I was a fool. I kept trying to be the good daughter. And when I lost my job 6 months later due to company downsizing, when my landlord raised my rent by $600 and I couldn't afford it, when I called home sobbing and desperate, my mother's voice was cool and distant. We can't help you right now, Lily. Emma's pregnant. We're helping them save for a baby. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. You're smart. You'll find a way. I found a way into my car, which became my home for 3 months until it was repossessed. I found a way onto the streets. I found a way to die alone on a cold park bench. My last thought, wondering why I'd never been enough for them to love. And then I found a way back. I woke up in my 18-year-old body, and for a moment I thought the whole thing had been a nightmare. But no, the memories were too vivid, too painful, too real. I remembered the texture of the cardboard I'd slept on. I remembered the hollow ache of starvation. I remembered my mother's voice telling me to figure it out on my own. I laid in my childhood bed in the room that would become Derek's, and I felt something crack open inside me. Not grief this time, not sorrow, rage, cold, calculating, absolute rage. They'd stolen my life, my dignity, my worth. They'd chosen a deadbeat stranger over their own daughter. They'd left me to die because I wasn't as pretty, as charming, as needy as Emma. But I had something they didn't. I had 5 years of foreknowledge. I knew exactly how the next 5 years would unfold, the stock market movements, the real estate crashes, the startup companies that would explode in value. I knew the lottery numbers for 3 different jackpots. I knew which cryptocurrencies would soar. And I knew exactly what my family would do to me, which meant I could stop it before it started. My 18th birthday had been in June. By August, I'd turned $200 from my graduation gift money into $50,000 through carefully timed cryptocurrency trades. By September, I'd quit my part-time retail job and started investing full-time from my laptop. By December, I had $500,000. My parents thought I was just being antisocial, spending all my time in my room. They had no idea I was building an empire. I graduated high school again in May, valedictorian again, but this time I had no intention of going to state university. Instead, I enrolled in online courses while continuing to trade and invest. I told my parents I was taking a gap year to find myself. They were disappointed but not surprised. In their minds, I'd always been the overly serious one. Maybe this would make me more like Emma, more fun, more spontaneous. If only they knew. By the time Emma brought Derek home in what would have been my junior year of college, I had $3 million in various investment accounts. I was 20 years old, living at home, and to all external appearances, I was a directionless college dropout who did freelance computer stuff for money. I watched Derek walk through the front door with his charming smile and calculating eyes, and I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Let them make their choices. Let them show me who they really were. This time, I'd be ready. The turning point came 6 months after Derek moved into my room, the room I'd voluntarily moved out of this time, taking the smaller guest room without complaint. I'd been the perfect, agreeable daughter, never making waves, never asking questions about why Derek didn't contribute to rent or groceries. I was sitting at dinner when my father cleared his throat. Lily, your mother and I have been talking. You're 21 now and you're still living at home doing your online work. Don't you think it's time you got your own place? I looked up from my plate, feigning confusion. My own place? I pay rent here. Yes, but My mother exchanged a glance with Emma. Emma and Derek are getting serious. They're talking about marriage. And this house, it's getting crowded. I'm in the smallest room, I pointed out. I'm barely here. I'm quiet. That's not the point, Emma said, her voice sharp. The point is that Derek and I need space to build our future. We're planning a family, and you're just here, taking up space. Don't you have dreams, ambitions? I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. I owned more assets than everyone at this table combined, and they thought I was aimless. I like being close to family, I said softly, playing my role. Well, we need you to like it a little less close, my father said. We found you a nice apartment about 30 minutes away, 1 bedroom, affordable. We'll even help you with the deposit. You're kicking me out. I made my voice small, hurt. We're helping you become independent, my mother corrected. It's for your own good. I moved out 2 weeks later into the apartment they'd picked, a rundown place in a sketchy neighborhood that I immediately renovated and turned into a rental property, moving myself into a luxury penthouse downtown that I purchased in cash through an LLC. I visited home once a month, playing the role of the lonely, struggling daughter. I watched Emma get pregnant. I watched Derek propose with a ring Emma had mostly paid for. I watched my parents mortgage their house to help pay for a wedding that cost more than I'd made in my first year of work in my previous life. And I waited. I knew what was coming. In my previous timeline, my parents had refinanced their mortgage 3 years after Emma's wedding, desperate to help Derek's failed business venture. They'd overextended themselves catastrophically, and by the time I died, they'd been 3 months from foreclosure. This time, I made sure things moved faster. I created a shell company, Mountain Vista Holdings LLC. I hired a team of lawyers and financial advisors, and I started buying up debt. Not just any debt. Specifically, I began acquiring distressed mortgages in my parents' neighborhood. When my parents tried to refinance to help Derek's construction business, which was really just a way for him to funnel their money into his gambling habit, I made sure that Mountain Vista Holdings was there with the most attractive offer. Low interest rate, flexible terms, easy approval. They never knew they were signing their house over to me. For 2 years, I let them pay their mortgage on time. I wanted them comfortable, secure, convinced that they'd made the right choice in prioritizing Emma's needs over mine. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Emma called me on a Tuesday evening. I hadn't spoken to her in 6 months. Our relationship had deteriorated to hostile silence after she'd accused me of being jealous of her happiness when I'd declined to babysit her twins for free every weekend. Lily, I need your help. Her voice was strained. It's an emergency. What kind of emergency? I asked, examining my manicured nails. Derek, he made some bad investments. We're in trouble, real trouble. We need money. How much money? $50,000. If we don't get it by the end of the month, we'll lose everything. I let the silence stretch. That's a lot of money, Emma. I know, but you're family. You have to help us. Mom and Dad said you've been doing well with your computer work. Did they? I smiled. What exactly did they say? That you're making decent money. Enough to help. Please, Lily, we're desperate. Let me think about it, I said. I'll call you back. I didn't call back. Instead, I waited until my parents called. Lily, honey. My mother's voice was syrupy sweet, the way it only got when she wanted something. How are you? I'm well. Listen, Emma might have mentioned, there's a situation. Derek had some bad luck with a business deal, and they're in a tight spot financially. I heard. We were hoping. You're doing well now, aren't you, with your work? Maybe you could help your sister out. Just a loan. They'll pay you back. Will they? I asked. Because I seem to remember sending you money every month during my first year of work, and I never saw any of that come back to me. Silence. That was different, my father said, apparently on the other line. That was you helping the family. And this isn't Emma helping the family. Interesting how family only works one direction. Don't be bitter, my mother snapped. It's unbecoming. Your sister has children to think about. Then she and Derek should have thought about that before making bad investments. How dare you? Emma's voice came through. Apparently, this was a conference call. How dare you judge us? You've always been jealous of me. Always thought you were better because you got good grades and went to college. I did go to college, I said quietly. I lived in a flooding basement and ate ramen for months to afford it while Derek lived in my childhood room for free. But sure, Emma, I'm the problem. We need that money, my father said. This is family. You help family. No, I said. I don't think I will. I hung up. 2 weeks later, Mountain Vista Holdings sent out default notices. Emma and Derek had stopped paying their rent, my parents had missed their mortgage payment covering Emma's expenses, and the cascading failure was exactly what I'd calculated. 3 months after that, I initiated foreclosure proceedings, not just on my parents' house, on all 19 properties I'd acquired in their neighborhood, creating a simultaneous foreclosure wave that made local news. But I only cared about one property, the house they'd chosen over me. The climax came on a cold October morning when the sheriff arrived with the eviction notice. I'd timed it perfectly, 6 months before the date I'd died in my previous timeline. Poetic symmetry. I stood on the sidewalk in a designer suit that cost more than their monthly mortgage payment, watching my mother's hands shake as she read the foreclosure documents. You, my father breathed, staring at me. You did this. Mountain Vista Holdings. That's you? That's me. I walked up their driveway, my heels clicking with each step. Surprise. You bought our mortgage? My mother's voice rose hysterically. You've been our lender for 2 years? Why? Why would you do this? Because you gave me a choice, I said calmly. Be homeless and die or be wealthy and survive. I chose survival. Emma appeared in the doorway, her face pale, one twin on her hip. Lily, you can't do this. We have children. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you convinced Mom and Dad to kick me out so Derek could move in. You should have thought about that before you let them refinance their house to fund his gambling. You should have thought about that before you told me to figure it out on my own. We never said that, my mother protested. You did. In my first life, you absolutely did. When I lost my job and my apartment, when I was desperate and scared, you told me you couldn't help because Emma was pregnant. You told me I was smart enough to figure it out. So I did. First life? My father's face was ashen. What are you talking about? I pulled out a folder from my briefcase and handed it to him. This is a detailed account of everything that happened to me in the timeline where I didn't have the advantage of knowing the future. Where I was a good daughter, where I helped you, where I sent you money I couldn't afford to send. It ends with me dying alone on a park bench from pneumonia and malnutrition, 3 miles from this house because none of you would help me. My mother opened the folder, her hands trembling. I'd written it all out, every detail, every moment of suffering. I'd included photos I'd taken of the places I'd slept, the receipts from the free clinic, the final eviction notice from my car. This isn't real, Emma whispered. This can't be real. It was my reality. And when I woke up on my 18th birthday with all those memories intact, I made a decision. Never again. Never would I let you use me, discard me, choose a stranger over me. We made mistakes, my father said, his voice breaking. But this is cruel. This is vindictive. This is justice. I took the folder back, didn't I? You taught me that family helps family, right? Well, I'm helping you learn a valuable lesson about consequences. We'll fight this, my mother said desperately. We'll get a lawyer. You can't just... I can and I did. Everything is legal. Everything is documented. You signed every paper willingly. The only thing I did was be smart enough to be the one holding your debt when you defaulted. Derek appeared behind Emma, and I saw the fear in his eyes. Good. He should be afraid. You're insane, he said. You're destroying a family over some petty... I'm not destroying anything, I interrupted. I'm revealing what was always true. This family was destroyed the moment you decided I was expendable. I'm just making sure you understand what expendable feels like. I pulled out another set of documents. You have 30 days to vacate. After that, if you're still here, the sheriff will remove you forcibly. I suggest you start packing. Where are we supposed to go? Emma was crying now, and I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, just cold satisfaction. I don't know, Emma. Figure it out. You're smart enough, right? That's what you tell me. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. I've purchased Derek's truck through another LLC. The repo company will be by tomorrow. Turns out he's been defaulting on those payments too. And Emma, that credit card you opened in Mom's name without telling her? I've reported that as fraud. The police will want to talk to you. My sister's face went white. How did you? I know everything, I said softly. Every lie, every manipulation, every time you stole from them while pretending to be the victim. I've documented all of it, and I've made sure the right people have copies. I looked at my parents, really looked at them. They seemed smaller than I remembered, older, more fragile. You chose this, I told them. Every step of the way, you chose this. You chose Derek over me. You chose Emma's comfort over my survival. You chose to believe I was strong enough not to need you, when the truth was that you just didn't want to bother. Lily, please. My mother was sobbing now. We're sorry, we'll make it right. Just give us a chance. I gave you chances. I gave you my entire childhood, my entire first life. You threw them away. I pulled my sunglasses back on. You have 30 days. I suggest you use them wisely. I walked back to my car, a Tesla Model S paid for in cash, and drove away without looking back. The next 30 days were a symphony of carefully orchestrated destruction. I'd prepared for this moment for 3 years, gathering evidence, creating paper trails, ensuring that every domino would fall exactly as I wanted. First, the house. My parents scrambled to find lawyers, but every consultation ended the same way. The foreclosure was airtight. They'd defaulted on their payments, and Mountain Vista Holdings had every right to reclaim the property. Some lawyers suggested bankruptcy, but I'd planned for that too. The debt was structured in a way that bankruptcy wouldn't discharge it. They'd still lose the house, but they'd also destroy their credit for 7 years. Second, Derek's business. Turns out it's remarkably easy to audit someone when you have access to all the financial records. His construction business was a shell for fraud. He'd been taking deposits from clients and never completing work, using the money to pay off gambling debts. I'd compiled everything and sent it to the state attorney general's office. They were very interested. Third, Emma's credit card fraud. She'd opened 3 cards in my mother's name over the past 2 years, racking up nearly $40,000 in debt. My mother had known, but had been too afraid of Emma's reaction to report it. I had no such qualms. The documentation went to the police, along with text messages Emma had sent bragging about her creative financing. Fourth, and most personally satisfying, I called in every favor they'd asked of me and never repaid. The time I'd loaned Dad $2,000 for emergency car repairs. I'd kept the promissory note. The $5,000 I'd given Emma for her wedding that was supposed to be a loan, also documented. I filed small claims for every penny, with interest. But the real masterpiece was what I did with the house itself. I didn't just foreclose. I'd spent the past year buying up every piece of properties surrounding their house. The neighbors on both sides, the house behind them, the empty lot across the street. I'd been quietly assembling a development package. 2 weeks before their eviction date, the neighborhood received notice that Mountain Vista Holdings was planning a major residential development. The old houses would be torn down and replaced with luxury townhomes. Property values in the immediate area would skyrocket, except for the properties being demolished. My parents' house was the centerpiece of the development zone. You can't tear it down, my mother begged when she finally understood. She'd called me crying, her pride finally broken. Please, Lily, this is our home, our memories. Emma grew up here. You grew up here. I grew up in a room that you gave to a stranger, I said. I grew up being told I was less important than my sister's boyfriend. Those aren't the kinds of memories worth preserving. What do you want? My father asked. Money? An apology? Tell us what you want. I want you to feel what I felt, I said simply. I want you to know what it's like to have nowhere to go, to be told that you're not worth helping, to understand that you're expendable. We get it, Emma's voice came through, another conference call. You've made your point. You've punished us. Can't we move past this? Move past this? I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. Emma, you haven't even begun to understand. In my first life, I died because of you. Because of your selfishness, your entitlement, your absolute certainty that you deserved everything and I deserved nothing. You don't get to move past that with a quick apology. What do you want us to do? She screamed. Grovel, beg, we're sorry, okay? We're fucking sorry. I don't want your apology, I said. I want you to live with the consequences of your choices. Just like I had to, I hung up. The eviction happened on schedule. The sheriff's department arrived with a moving truck. My parents hadn't managed to arrange their own and removed their belongings to a storage unit I'd rented. I was generous enough to pay for 3 months of storage. After that, if they couldn't afford it, their possessions would be auctioned off. I watched from across the street as they carried out their furniture, their photo albums, the remnants of their life. Emma was hysterical, Derek was sullen and quiet, and my parents looked like they'd aged 20 years in 30 days. When the house was empty, I had the locks changed and posted security to prevent them from returning. The next day, demolition crews arrived. I didn't watch them tear the house down. I didn't need to. I could imagine it perfectly. The walls crumbling, the roof caving in, every room where I'd felt unwelcome and unloved, reduced to rubble. Instead, I focused on building. The luxury townhome development was already in progress. I'd designed it myself, working with architects to create beautiful, modern homes that would sell for $800,000 each. The development would be called Perseverance Heights, a private joke only I would understand. But I reserved one lot for something special. In the exact footprint where my parents' house had stood, I built my dream home. 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen, a home office, a library. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden I hired a professional to design. Every luxury I'd ever wanted, every comfort I'd been denied. And I put up a plaque by the front door, built on the foundation of second chances. The construction took 8 months. During that time, I kept tabs on my family through a private investigator. My parents had moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town. Dad had picked up extra shifts at his factory job. Mom was working retail for the first time in 20 years. They were barely making rent. Emma and Derek's marriage was crumbling. The fraud charges meant Emma was facing probation and community service. Derek was looking at actual jail time for his business fraud. Turns out he'd scammed over $200,000 from various clients. They'd moved in with Derek's mother, who charged them rent and made it clear they weren't welcome. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. As my house neared completion, I started the final phase of my plan. I'd always known that financial ruin wouldn't be enough. I needed them to see what they'd lost, to understand what I could have been to them if they'd just chosen me. So I threw a housewarming party. I invited everyone, every neighbor from the old street, every distant relative, every family friend. I hired caterers, bartenders, a pianist. I sent engraved invitations on cream-colored cardstock, and I included my parents, Emma, and Derek on the guest list. I knew they wouldn't come. They'd received their invitations and called me, alternating between begging me not to humiliate them further and screaming that I was a monster. I simply told them the invitation stood and hung up. But I also knew they'd hear about it, in detail, from everyone else. The party was magnificent. 200 people wandered through my new home, drinking champagne and exclaiming over the marble countertops, the custom woodwork, the art I'd commissioned. I wore a midnight blue dress that cost more than my first month's rent in my old basement apartment. My jewelry was real, diamonds and sapphires that caught the light when I moved. I laughed and chatted and accepted congratulations on my success. How did you do it? People asked. You're so young. How did you make so much money? Smart investments, I said, and knowing what to let go of. I cut out all the things and people that were holding me back. The neighbors from the old street understood. They'd seen my parents' house demolished. They knew about the foreclosure. The whispers started, speculation and gossip, and I did nothing to stop them. I heard her own family kicked her out, someone murmured, chose the daughter's boyfriend over her. And now look at what she built while they're living in some tiny apartment. The story spread like wildfire, growing with each retelling. My parents became the villains in a cautionary tale told at dinner parties and book clubs throughout the city. The people who'd thrown away a brilliant daughter for a con man, the parents who'd bet on the wrong child. My professional life exploded. The same instincts that had let me predict market movements and build wealth made me invaluable in the investment world. I started my own firm, Perseverance Capital, and within 6 months, I was managing $50 million in assets for high net worth clients. I was featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30. I gave interviews about financial independence and building generational wealth. I never mentioned my family directly, but I spoke often about the importance of surrounding yourself with people who valued you, about cutting loose those who took advantage. Every interview was another knife in my parents' hearts, and I knew it. A year after the foreclosure, my mother tried one last time to reach me. She showed up at my office, looking haggard and desperate. "Please," she said when my secretary tried to turn her away, "please, I just need 5 minutes with my daughter." I could have refused, should have refused, but I was curious to see what she'd say, what final card she thought she could play. I let her into my office, a corner office with a view of the city skyline, furnished with pieces that cost more than she made in a year. "I'm sorry," she said, standing awkwardly by the door. She looked so small, so defeated. "I'm so sorry for everything. We were wrong. We made terrible choices. We hurt you, and I know you have no reason to forgive us, but I'm begging you to give us another chance." "A chance to do what?" I asked, leaning back in my leather chair. "To use me again? To prioritize Emma again? To make me feel like I'm worth less than a stranger?" "No, a chance to be a real family. To show you that we love you." "You don't love me," I said quietly. "You love what I can do for you. You love the idea that I might bail you out, solve your problems, make your lives easier, but me, the actual person, you never loved her at all." "That's not true." "Yes, it is." I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo. It was from my first life, from the months when I was homeless. I'd asked a social worker to take it. My face was gaunt, my eyes hollow, my clothes filthy. I looked like a ghost. "This is what your love led to," I said. "This is what happened when I believed that family meant something, that you'd be there for me when I needed you. I died, Mom. I actually died because you chose Emma over me." She was crying, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. "Hats, how can you remember dying? That doesn't make sense." "It doesn't have to make sense. It happened. And when I came back, I decided that I'd rather be alone and wealthy than part of your family and destroyed." "What about Emma?" she asked desperately. "She's your sister. Her children are your niece and nephew. Don't you want to know them?" "I don't want anything to do with people who think love is conditional on usefulness," I said. Emma taught me that lesson very well. "Please," she was on her knees now, literally begging. "Please, Lily, we have nothing. We're losing the apartment. Your father's health is failing. Emma's marriage is over. We need help." "Then I suggest you figure it out," I said, echoing the words they'd once said to me. "You're smart. You'll find a way." I pressed the button for security. "This meeting is over. Please escort Mrs. Chen from the building and add her to the do not admit list." As security led her away, she screamed back at me, "You're not my daughter. My daughter was kind, loving. You're a monster." "No," I called after her, "Bay, I'm the daughter you created. You just don't like seeing your own reflection." That was 3 years ago. Today, I'm 29 years old. I run a successful investment firm with $500 million in assets under management. I own 47 properties across 3 states. I've been featured in major financial publications and speak regularly at conferences about wealth building and female entrepreneurship. I live in my dream home, built on the literal ruins of my childhood. I have friends, real friends who like me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I date occasionally, though I'm cautious. Learning to trust after what my family did isn't easy. My parents are still struggling. Dad had a heart attack last year, and the medical bills pushed them into bankruptcy. They lost the apartment and moved into subsidized housing. Mom works 2 jobs. They're surviving barely, and I know they resent me for not helping. Emma and Derek divorced. He went to prison for fraud, 3 years, and he's still got one left to serve. Emma lost custody of the twins temporarily due to the credit card fraud conviction, but got them back after completing her probation. She works as a waitress and lives in a trailer park. She posts bitter things about me on social media sometimes, calling me cruel, heartless, vindictive. I don't respond. I don't need to. The world knows my success story, not the rebirth part, I'd sound insane, but the rest. The daughter who was kicked out, who built an empire, who foreclosed on her parents' house and turned it into her own mansion. Some people think I'm inspiring. Others think I'm cruel. I don't particularly care what they think. Sometimes, late at night in my beautiful home, I wonder if I went too far, if maybe I should have been merciful, should have offered them a second chance after teaching them a lesson. Then I remember the park bench, the cold, the hunger, the absolute abandonment. I remember dying alone, thinking that I'd never been enough for them to love, and I feel nothing but satisfaction. They made their choice. They chose Emma, chose Derek, chose their own comfort over their daughter's life. They taught me that family is conditional, that love has limits, that some children are expendable. I learned that lesson well, and I built an empire on its ruins. My name is Lily Chen. I'm the daughter who was thrown away and came back to claim everything. I'm the woman who turned betrayal into billions, who transformed abandonment into architecture, who made her family's greatest mistake into her greatest triumph. I'm the one who won, and every morning when I wake up in my mansion, built on the exact spot where they chose to destroy me, I smile. Because they thought I was expendable, but I'm the one who's thriving. They thought I was weak, but I'm the one who's powerful. They thought they could throw me away, but I'm the one who came back and took everything. Justice isn't always merciful. Sometimes it's just satisfyingly, perfectly, completely cold. And I sleep very, very well at night.